is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it.
Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3.
Hello, welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. Well, it's been a little while since you guys last got an episode from me, but like I told you guys before, and I'll probably continue to say it every time I don't give an episode, I'm not going to release an episode just for the sake of releasing an episode. I'm only going to release something that I feel like's good content to give you guys, but just what more could I have said if I would have done a preview for the New England Revolution versus Philadelphia Union game? I mean, I did, 4 of those? Like, we know how the Union play against the Revolution. What more could I have said somebody else have said? So there's no need, in my opinion, for that just for me to come, on for 5 minutes and give my prediction. Nah, I didn't think it was worth it. And, it's been a week since we've been knocked out of the playoffs, and so I'm like, you know what? Everybody else already has talked about their prediction, their thoughts and everything on that game. People have ranted, good takes, bad takes on social media. But I figured, you know what? I think now's a good time to discuss that game a little bit and discuss the 2020 season for the Philadelphia Union as a whole. And just reading people's comments on social media, there was a lot of good takes, but some really, really bad takes. And I was like, you know what? Who can I get on the podcast that will change his bad takes into something really, really good? And I figured, let me bring on no other than my guy, Mr. Jeff Mitchell. So thanks again, Jeff, for coming onto the podcast. How have you been?
Thanks for having me, man. I've been as well as can be expected during a global pandemic. We managed to get our Roxbury United season in, but we had to play all away games. But everyone stayed healthy and safe, and, we're just navigating the best we can still.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's good that you guys were able to get in a season. I know a lot of rec leagues here in Maryland, they were winding down their seasons and they weren't able to continue their big tournaments and everything that they always have at the end of the season. But, I guess for the younger kids, and I know you have a younger son, Jeff, named Ben, and just we talked about it, Andrew and I, last episode about everything you're doing at Roxbury United. And, with the craziness with COVID going on, like those guys want to have as much normalcy as possible. Not saying that we don't, but those kids like that they're going insane just sitting at home, not seeing their friends and everything. Yeah, you can play video games, but you don't want them to sit there and play video games the whole time. You want them to interact with their friends. So that's awesome that you guys were able to get through your season, even though you weren't able to have home games.
Yeah, it was very odd. And I'm someone that, definitely knows the severity of the virus. Didn't downplay that at all. Like it was, kind of terrifying for me to take charge of 12 kids and, have their health and safety on my shoulders. And, the Roxbury United board with President Mike Rex did an amazing job with all our safety protocols, masks, sanitizers. We even had Philadelphia Union youth trainings once a week. And I think they've been running programs since March and they've had like no incidents, which is incredible. Like you should see the protocol, which made me feel good about the senior team and their protocols. So yeah, it was hard, but like you said, giving the kids a little bit of normalcy was great. Getting them outdoors. The winter is going to be a real challenge. Everything's shut down now, but we got our season in. No home games, a lot of memories, and like I said, no casualties, no health scares. So thank God.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys just continue to get better each and every day that you were able to practice and play. So that's what it's all about. But, I'm expecting a little bit of a longest episode with both of us being positive people, I'd like to say. And so, I'm just going to skip the MLS news. There is some MLS news out there that I probably should discuss, but I feel like, there's just way too much to talk about with the Union in general. So let's just go straight into it. And what we're talking about right off the bat is the Philadelphia Union versus the New England Revolution. Like I said, that game's been 1 week ago since the Union got knocked out. We all know the Union lost 2-0. Look, it sucks. The Union got bounced from the first round, but honestly, I'm not disappointed. I'm really not disappointed. I expected it because New England hadn't beaten the Union since 2017. 3 years is a long time to go without beating a team. And especially in a season when you've seen a team for 5 times, it's really, really hard to beat a team 5 times in a season. So I guess the only thing I guess I can say I'm disappointed in is that I expected more of a fight from the Union. But look, they had a great year, and we'll definitely get into that, I know, a lot of times later on in this episode. But look, people want to complain about the ref, and I'm not here to complain about the ref, Yeah, there's bad calls and everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got to take care of your own business. The referee didn't make the Union start slow on New England's restart to get them their first goal of the game. Yeah, the referees can have an impact on the game when they're constantly blowing their whistle. But the referee, like I said, he didn't tell the Union to fall asleep on the restart by New England. He didn't tell the Union to start slow when we got countered by Buchanan. That's on the Union falling asleep and everything. And I know Allie, Jim Curtin, they came out and said, hey, look, it's on us and everything. We should have done better. For whatever reason, we weren't ready, and we should have been. And it sucks seeing people make excuses. Oh, if the refs were better. Nah, the Union should have taken care of the business. And yeah, I know people will talk about, did the players let all the awards go to their heads? Should Kai have went out and done an interview with German newspaper, I think it was Kicker, and talked about he wants to move to Europe no later than July? Yeah, maybe all that could have played into some of the players' heads and everything. Maybe it could have got them distracted. I know Ali said, hey, look, we try to be as prepared as we can. Did the 2-week layoff for the Union play into an effect? Yeah, I think it did. I mean, you look at all sports where teams have a week layoff and they come out in the first playoff game, whatever it is, and they start slow, and sometimes the teams get bounced, just like what happened to the Union. But, it is what it is. And we'll talk about just the 2020 season as a whole, because I'm super excited what happened this season for the Union. And yeah, we would have liked to have seen them go on and run in the playoffs, but just the way the Union played this season, I have no complaints my end. But Jeff, just your thoughts on the New England game.
Sure. I'm Mr. Posidelphia, but the Union played a terrible game, and I'm positive, but I'm also realistic. They came out, and I also believe that the refs kind of lost control of that game. But like you said, that wasn't a factor in why we lost that game. It could have been many factors. I don't know if it was the layoff. I don't know if it was, like you said, Bruce Arena is a good coach, and we're seeing it with the Revs run in the playoffs. Like, they're a good team. People really counted them out. But, when they have all three DPs on the field, they are crazy to watch. And, they do get scrappy and they do get dirty. I felt like in that game, they milked every minute of clock off that scoreboard. But, that's what teams do to win sometimes. And, that's the end result. That's the end game that you're looking for, is to win. I personally don't think the team was, already like happy with the Shield and with all the press and all that stuff. But that's just me personally. I don't know, what's in their hearts. But, I just think the layoff and everything kind of just like worked against them. And, like I said, it's disappointing because the Union probably, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but maybe we only played 3 bad games all season, maybe 4 bad games all season. But one of our worst games just happened to be in a knockout round in the playoffs. And, that sucks. But I hope people don't let, that bad game overwhelm how amazing the season was. It was historic. And, people have differing opinions on the pandemic and all this other stuff, but not to politicize it. But these guys gave up a month of their lives in Orlando, and, whether, they're athletes, but they risked their lives and the lives of their loved ones to go play soccer for us. And, I think people kind of, don't give them enough severity to how serious that situation was. These guys have elderly parents, they have young kids, and even themselves, we've seen people die, it doesn't matter, in perfect health, because this virus just, nobody really understands it still after almost a year. And, the fact that they put that on their shoulders, and then they also had, the Black Lives Matter movement and the civil unrest with the election, like, these guys had so much going on. And I think they performed amazingly on the field and off the field. And I think, like, seeing them lift the Shield at home is one of the greatest moments of my life. I've been waiting for this for 11 seasons. And, to hug my son and my wife, who have been at 2 Open Cup finals, in tears, just, rooting this team on, and to see them finally lift that Shield was amazing. And I think people, exhale and just be like, that was incredible. We made history. And, when you look at the competition, 5 years from now, you might just be like, wow, like, the MLS Cup playoffs are almost like the Open Cup this year. Yeah. Almost all the teams made it. You only need to win about 4 games to win a trophy. So it's like, it isn't like it was in previous years. but, we sustained greatness over, a shortened season, but a whole season, and with one of the hardest schedules. When you look at the everything on paper, we didn't play all the teams, but no one ever does. But the teams we play had some of the best records, and the Union finished in first. And I think people should be super proud. And that's what you should hang your hat on this season. Nothing else. You should hang your hat on. We won the Supporter Shield. We finished the season in first place, and that was amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I mean, just the season as a whole, and we're definitely talking to that a lot more. What more could you have asked for with everything, like you said, that the Union went through the season with, going down to Orlando. You saw all the team's players say, yeah, I'm not going to go. You saw, Kai, Sergio have young kids at home. And there's so many kids on the people on this team that have families at home. They all left them behind and had an amazing showing down in Orlando. And then to come back home and everything, to not have fans, to have fans show up outside of the stadium to push this team on. Like that, even though I wasn't able to go there to see what Jarrett and those guys did with Union Zoom Happy Hour to keep fans connected, to bring the Philly Fanatics into the Union games, to get them connected with the team. To try to really get Philadelphia to be a 5-for-5. And look, it's a long ways to go, but to actually hear people on the radio station talk about the Philadelphia Union, to take calls about the Union. I think the Union have made amazing strides this season. And everybody's like, oh, Philadelphia will never be a soccer town. Soccer will never make it in Philadelphia. Soccer will never make it into this country. Well, look, the Union, even though they got knocked out in the first round in the playoffs, you saw people that would never talk about soccer start talking about soccer. You saw 97.5, even if it wasn't on their main shows, still take calls about the Union. Say, hey, look, we're going to dedicate this amount of time to take calls about the Philadelphia Union. If you're a Union fan, call in. Let's learn more about the Union. This would never happen in years past. You saw the city light up blue and gold, which I thought would never happen. Like, you saw Philadelphia actually embracing this team. And yeah, maybe that helps because the Eagles have been trashed, that the Flyers got bounced in the playoffs, that the 76ers were the 76ers. But look, so much stuff happened with this team that, I never expected the city to embrace, that people that you never thought would talk about soccer were actually talking about soccer. And yeah, it sucks. It really does suck getting bounced from the playoffs. Look, the game didn't have the same intensity, in my opinion, like the Red Bull game did last year. And maybe that's because the stadium wasn't full. Maybe it was because this was a Tuesday game and everything, and people getting off of work. And that game last year was on a Saturday, Sunday, one of those days. And yeah, there could be a million reasons why the Union didn't show up. At the end of the day, they didn't show up, and it is what it is. But at the end of it, if you look at the season as a whole, yeah, I don't think you could have asked for a better season. And to see the Union lift this Supporters Shield, a trophy that, in my opinion, is the hardest trophy to lift in MLS, who wouldn't take that?
Yeah, I just got to, reiterate again, when you look back at the season, we had that incredible game in LA, and then the night before our perceived home opener, everything shuts down, we didn't know that it was going to open back up. Everything went on froze. And this year, it's just been hopeless. People are working from home. People are losing their jobs. People are getting sick and dying, and just all this bad stuff. And in the middle of all this hopelessness, the Union gave us so much hope for so long. You know what I mean? Like you said, forget the playoff game, but just think of the season as a whole. They rallied us together. Like you said, people were scrambling to figure it out. The Union Zoom Hour got together and brought all our fans together. And then the Fandemic crew comes in from the Phillies. And, we're building this community where it isn't, teams bickering in the city between each other. We're like, hey, we're from Philly. We like the Phillies. We like the Eagles. We like the Sixers, the Flyers, the Wings. Like I said, I people do 5-for-5. I like to do Philly versus everybody, because there might be a team that comes in next year. And, I want people to know that I support everybody from Philly. Even if I don't know the sport, I'm still going, I hope the Wings beat the lacrosse team from New York. You know what I mean? I hate them, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to act like I know a whole lot about lacrosse, but the Wings are my team because they're from Philly. And, we just kept marching on all season, against all the odds. We had this amazing tournament. And then we had the letdown, in that tournament knockout round. And we thought, that's the end of the season. And all of a sudden, we actually get a regular season. Like, think of all the stops and starts this team had to endure and training, in the Sixers field house and just traveling. And they're human like us. None of them are doctors or scientists. Like no one, you remember in the beginning of the pandemic, how scary it was. Like, it was terrifying and it still is terrifying, but we've kind of learned to live with it. But when it was new, these guys were willing to fly in a plane or drive down to Florida and make this happen. And they did it for us. And they had the greatest season. We got to see the kids play. How amazing were the homegrowns? Like all this amazing stuff happened. We got to see Mark McKenzie grow into the best center back in the league. He may have not won Defender of the Year, but to me, that's, those prizes isn't, Mark plays to be the best. And, just because he wasn't voted the best, I think he was the best player possibly in the whole league all season. They're not going to win MVP for being a center back,
no.
but he played incredible. And he's how old? 21, 22,
21.
Something like that. Unbelievable. And to see him off the field, and that's important for me. He's an activist. He's 21 years old. When I was 21, I was like a knucklehead out doing knucklehead stuff, but Mark's like a mature guy. And as a guy that's now, a father and coaching kids that play soccer, you can't find better role models than the guys on this team. And I think people need to factor all this stuff in. I get it. I wanted to hoist MLS Cup, but think of how much bright side came out of this. And after 10 seasons of, heartbreak, but the last 3-4 years, we've continually gotten better every single season. And I know people go, oh, I wish we would have got further in the playoffs. And me too. But would you, if we won 2 playoff games and didn't win the Shield, I don't think it's as successful as lifting that Shield. It sucks we got bounced out, but we got our first piece of hardware. And, these guys care. That's the one thing that gets me online. And I know not everyone is as lucky as I am to kind of know the team and the front office and the players personally, but these guys care way more than even I ever could. And like that breaks my heart. Like people think, Jim doesn't care. The players didn't show up. Like they are gutted. And like they came out and I coach youth soccer. It's hard to compare, but some games it doesn't happen. And it just happened at the worst possible time for us. But it doesn't negate the greatness that the Union have given us this year and how we are on an upward trajectory. I'm so excited for the future of this team. And how often could we really say that through our history? Like, the Union are putting themselves on the map. They've established the academy. Even I'm seeing it with kids from Roxbury United going to the Pathway to the Pros program. And I'm seeing these kids like Quinn Sullivan sign for the team and Brandon Craig, who I'm going on record right now as saying is going to be my favorite player ever because I just love that guy. But 2 guys that came right out of Philly. How awesome is that? Like, so I think people need to embrace the good. And, like I said, I try not to tell people how to fan, but be upset. We played a bad game. We got lost and, we're out. But think of the good stuff. It's incredible. And I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And look, I mean, what else can I say that you didn't already say? I mean, we both agree. And look, people aren't going to agree with us. I mean, that's pretty evident. Just reading people's comments on social media and everything, like it would be a boring place if everybody agreed with everybody. And, I think, you get hot after a loss and everything. And like you tweet something, you post something on Facebook right away. And then a couple of days pass and everything like, I probably shouldn't have said that. Like, I don't feel that way anymore. It's just a heat of a moment kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, it's just one thing with me. Like, yeah, it sucked that the Union got bounced and everything, but was I upset? Was I sad? No, because like you said, a week, 2 weeks after that, before that, we watched the Union lift the Supporters Shield and the trophy. And to hear the backstory about that it was an actual Captain America shield, like makes it 10 times better. Like,
how incredible was that? Like you said, not only do we get our first piece of silverware, but it comes with a ridiculous backstory that seems like it could only happen in Philly. What was it? The press secretaries, uncles, cousins, sisters, nephews, nieces, whatever. But and the fact that this guy gave up, like, I don't even want to guess how much, a cosplaying accurate shield that probably at least cost a couple $100 to these people for this wacky idea. And, I've heard all these weird little tidbits that when they were trying to get the vinyl sticker over it. The hair dryer heater kept sticking to the magnet because it's a 150-pound weighted magnet, and just insanity. And how about, I got to take a break, Todd, and I'm sorry for overtaking your show, but give the Sons of Ben credit. And, I'm not on the board anymore, but they wanted to not award the Shield this year. And I don't think people realize how much the Sons of Ben board had to go to bat with the what is it? The ISCL, the Independent Supporters. I can't remember. I'm so sorry, but they had to fight it out via, text and calls and emails and group chats. Like almost 2 weeks before the end of the season, this trophy almost got shelved. And the group that brought a soccer team to Philly brought the Supporter Shield back from the dead, man. And, think of how, we still could have lost that game and lost the Supporter Shield, but they fought their butts off to get this Shield awarded, and we won it. And how crazy people got mad because we blew the game in Columbus. But could you imagine how anticlimactic it would have been not winning the Shield at home after seeing the scenes of winning the Shield at home? And, the Shield wouldn't have been there. Like, everything just seems like it worked out, the right way. And like I said, gutted to not be still watching the Union in the playoffs, but focus on the positive and how amazing this year was. Just everything around it, the team, the front office, the players. It's insane. And like I said, don't forget about the Shield. Like, it seems like people stopped talking about that, but the Shield was dead.
Yeah.
It was dead. And they had to go to bat for a Shield that they could have ended up not holding at all. You know what I mean? And that's would have been Negadelphia, typical Union. We fight to get the Shield back, and then we blow a couple games, and Toronto raises the Shield in Connecticut or wherever the heck they're playing their home games. So focus on the positive and how awesome, like, seeing that trophy get lifted. Like I said, I still get chills when I look at those pictures, and I know Morgan Tenza's selling pictures. Hit her up on Twitter. Like, I get goosebumps every time I see, and Ray Gaddis's smile. Oh my God. Like, it's incredible to see a guy like that who's just been here for this team since 2011?
Yeah, 9 years.
He's been through every heartbreak there is. They put him in left back when he doesn't play left back. Like, he's suffered everything. The fans have beaten him up on Twitter.
Yep.
And that man has stayed, smiling and inspirational the whole time. And to see him hoist that Shield, the only thing that would have been better is if he scored a goal in that game, and we could have made fun of Paul over at Views from the Bridge Pod. We love you guys, but no, that would have been the only thing I think that I would have changed about this season if I got, playoffs aside. I think Ray scoring would have been the the pinnacle.
And definitely would have. And yeah, I mean, Ray, I think, did come close once or twice in that game against New England in the regular season, not the playoffs. And I turned around to Paul. I was like, I looked at his face, and like, obviously you have your mask on, but like, his eyes were just saying everything. I was like, yeah, you can tell that Paul was sweating and everything. I was like, yeah, it's too close for your comfort, wasn't it, Paul? And he was like, yeah, that was pretty close. But yeah, we've touched on so many good things, and I just want to go ahead and talk about just the 2020 record and everything, and play some clips from when I gave my predictions, which seems like forever ago, back in March, I think it was, which it was forever ago, a couple months until a year. And so, obviously, this wasn't a full season. We all know that. So, in 23 games played, the Union, they won 14 games. They had 5 draws, 4 losses, 44 goals, 47 points. And this was my prediction for what I thought was going to be a full season. Now, let me go ahead and tell you guys why I think I have the Union in second place. So, honestly, I think the Union will break their records in back-to-back years. They're going to break their most wins in a season. I think the Union are going to get 17 wins this season. I think they're going to break their goal scored this season with 60 goals. And, if they do that, then that means that they're going to break their points record with 58 points, in my opinion. Look, in 23 games played this season, the Union already had 47 points. 47 points in 23 games. They were just 2 wins in 23 games, all from tying their most wins in a season, which was 16, was set last year. in a 34-game season.
Yeah, how crazy. If you extrapolate that and, like you said, we probably would have broken all the records. And I think people forget, and that it's okay. Sometimes we have short memories, but the last couple of years, we've just been, putting our hand like one rung higher on the ladder and then putting our other hand one rung higher on the ladder. And like, we're just getting there, man. And, people definitely love to flame me about this one, but credit to Jay Sugarman and, all those guys for having the vision to see the big picture and to believe in Jim and know his background. Like I said, I feel blessed and, to know some of these guys personally, but people are seeing now the pictures of Jim coaching the U9 kids at the academy. And, Jim has raised these guys and, I'm not comparing myself to Jim at all as a coach, but after coaching kids, I've coached my son's team since U8, like you've build such a bond with these kids on and off the field that like this team is going to be so good for so long, with this bond that they've built. And David Pettikin at the Youth Academy and the YSC Academy with Richie Graham, like it's just something so special. And, that's like a piece that people don't see. And, I like I said, I try to step back and not fault people because I forget sometimes that I'm in a very lucky situation, but there's so much going on behind the scenes. And, when people used to see me before, they would just, trash me for being positive. But it's like, granted, I didn't know how fast it was going to get this successful, but like I saw it. And, my son and I were there when they opened the high school across from YSC Academy. And, I've been friends with so many of these guys since they were like little kids and it's like teenagers and like they're building something truly special and truly Philly. Like it's such a brotherhood. And it's like I said, it's going to pay dividends for a long time. And I think hopefully people will just rally behind this team. And like I said, you don't have to have blind trust, and I don't try not to please people, get mad. They did play a bad game in the playoffs, but like try to focus on the big picture and be proud of these guys and, learn these guys. Go watch the streams of the academy. We have so much talent coming up the ranks. Paxton Aronson coming in, like I said, Quinn Sullivan and Brandon Craig. And we didn't even see, Cole Turner was on the team. Jack DeVries was on the team. Like there's all these other great guys too. Even Matty Freeze. How good was Matty Ice, to come in that last game? Could you imagine the pressure of, after what happened to Bendick in Columbus, and then you have to come in and quote unquote save the season for Andre Blake, who's out. Like he played with so much poise. Like he didn't have to do a lot, but he did everything he needed to do that game. And he's like 19 years old. I don't know. I'm so bad with the ages, but this team is built to be good for a long time, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's all coming through that YSC Academy, coming through the homegrowns and everything. And man, just seeing Jack McGlynn, Nate Harriel, Paxton Aronson, and then you had Brandon Craig and Sullivan signed deals. I mean, 5 homegrown players in one season. Like this is crazy. And
I forget if we mentioned Nathan Harriel.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you caught his name, but there's so many guys. I'll try not to forget. I know we're going to forget guys, but it's incredible. It's incredible.
It is.
People should be so happy.
Yeah, and it's insane because you hear rumors that say, oh, look, yeah, Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, these guys are the real deal. We saw what they were for the first team. And they say, yeah, the next line of players behind them are even better than what they're going to be. And if that's the case, hey, we're all for it. So, yeah, what? We sold Brendan Aronson for $6 million. So, what? In a couple of years, you sell Paxton for $12 million? Hey, we'll take it. I know we haven't even seen Paxton yet, and so we want to enjoy him for a couple of years before we talk about selling. But you can see the big point. And just going back to my point, just in 34 games last year, they had 16 wins. And a lot of that's because the academy players coming through. Like, look, we know that this team's not going to spend big money on a DP signing, which the LAFCs do, the LA Galaxies, the Atlanta Uniteds. And yeah, it would be nice to see players like that, but isn't it nice to see players come through the academy that are Philly through and through, that grew up in the area, came through the academy, know what it's about to be a Philadelphia Union player? Yeah, I would much rather have that than signing a Mario Balotelli who you don't know if he's going to get a red card this game or not. And yeah, it would be exciting to see Bartelli, who's represented the Italian national team, played for Man City. Yeah, it'd be cool and everything, but yeah, I'd much rather have a player that wants to play for the shirt on their badge and not themselves, which, in my opinion, I think that's what Bartelli is about. But if somebody wants to tell me otherwise, then hey, I'm all for it. But, it's just so crazy. Like, yeah, this season, we didn't want to play New England 4 times in the regular season. You heard Jim Curtin say so many times in his press conference, oh yeah, this is the 6th or 7th time we're playing New England this season. I'm sure Bruce Arena was getting annoyed of seeing Jim Curtin. You can tell that Bruce Arena doesn't like this team because we've had their numbers for the last 3 years. And he's like, how can I get past the Union? And they found a way in the playoffs, and it is what it is. But still, in 23 games, they had 14 wins. And look, I just really don't understand how people can say this season wasn't a success because they got knocked out of the first round of the playoffs. The Union finished with the best record in MLS. They gave up the fewest goals of this season, which was 20 goals. They finished with the 3rd most goals in MLS. LAFC was first with 47. Portland was with 46. The Union had 44. We're crying out loud. They've won their first trophy, the hardest. Like I said earlier, the hardest trophy in MLS to win, the Supporters' Shield. Jonathan Tannenwald for the Inquiry, he said something, I think, a few weeks ago, and he said, it was a really good point. He said, the European and South American players, they were celebrating extra hard when that Supporters' Shield was getting lifted because everywhere else in the world, winning the league, the Supporters' Shield, you that's your trophy. You won the league. And so to those guys, that's all they know. But we know here in America, you're not America unless you have playoffs. And that's why we love the playoffs because, how many times did we see underdogs upset the number 1 seed? And yeah, it happened to us, the Union. But to see if this was any place else in the world, for the Union to finish in first place, that means that's the only trophy you would get. First place, you won the league. Everybody would be celebrating that. And I feel like because there's playoffs, like you said, people are like, okay, we won the Shield, but that doesn't matter now because we got knocked out of the first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
But, you play the schedule that you're given. Like I said, no, we didn't want to play New England 4 times. And you look at the teams that we played, a lot of those teams made it into the playoffs. And like you said, most teams in MLS this year made the playoffs. But if you look at the records, you look at the way that some of these teams played, they weren't easy teams that the Union had to play at all. And to see the Union beat Toronto FC 5-0, granted, Toronto didn't have their players, I thought that was great. I think if you look at the way that Montreal played last year to what they played this year under Thierry Henry, I think it's a night and day difference. And they just weren't giving me wins. And to see DC United, after they fired Ben Olsen to go down to DC, everybody's like, oh, this is going to be a blowout win for the Union. And for DC to take the lead 2-1 in that game, yeah, I said it on the podcast, yeah, there was some pretty bad calls on that, but that didn't stop the Union from fighting back. I mean, Mark McKenzie comes up with his first career goal. What a huge goal for Mark McKenzie to come with, a center back, just a rocket of a shot. I look at Anthony Fontana's goals against New England this season. You look at Andrew Rutin's goal line clearance, which still doesn't get talked about enough against Chicago. How many times did Andre Blake come up big this season for us? I mean, there's just so many things you can look at that were so positive this season for the Union.
Yeah, that's, and that's what I'm trying to dwell on. Like, and then I've in the past have had my problems with the Supporters' Shield because it does suck. We don't have a balanced schedule, but our country's huge and it's like almost impossible to have that balanced schedule. But like you said, it does prove that you're the best overall. And, Americans are just conditioned otherwise. And think, I hate the Patriots because I'm from Philadelphia, but think of that year. They had a perfect record and then lost in the Super Bowl, and they aren't considered the champs or the winners of anything. And that's crazy. You know what I mean? An undefeated team is considered a failure because they lost one game in a knockout competition, which is absurd. Like, and they lost to a team. I can't remember. I think the Giants were like a wild card team that year too, which is even more insane. Like the Revs beating us as the play-in team. Like, those teams have nothing to lose. It is like, walking in on a honey badger or you know what I mean? Like you're walking in on this insane wounded creature that's just like, I got nothing to lose. Yep. And, and they're going to come get you. And, they got the Union this year, but man, so many positives. And just like, even like I was also blessed enough to be able to go down to some games, and it was so bizarre being in that stadium with only 2,000 people. And, I consider myself lucky to be there, but it was just, it makes you appreciate how incredible game day is. And how incredible all the fans are. I know people give it up for the supporters groups and whatever, but man, just everybody that comes to that stadium really cares about this team. It's such a small pond still, and it's getting bigger and bigger. Like you said, we're getting on sports talk radio. We're getting the buildings lit up blue, but this thing grew organically before there was even a team. And just to feel the camaraderie and like how much is missing when those fans aren't there in the building, it's so weird, and it makes you like really appreciate the culture that we have here. And I know, it isn't perfect and people fight over all these weird little things, but it's like, man, when we're unified and we are behind this team, it's the most special thing in the world. And, I've been to all the other major sports in the city, and, it's not like I dislike the Eagles or the Phillies or the Flyers or the Sixers or the Wings, but there's like something truly special about this small community of people, not only in the stadium, but outside the stadium, and how much everyone cares about each other. And even during the pandemic, seeing people support each other's businesses, even just seeing people support each other's mental health. And I know people, it might be, come off as like lame to talk about, but man, like we're all suffering. No one's built to be isolated. And to see this community reach out to one another, and even like, we see guys, even that I see them all the time, thanking you for your podcast. Like, thank you for getting me through my work day. And I'm also one of those guys I listen to every single time. And it's so true. In the midst of all this chaos, like you give me like a little piece of like zen, and and like I said, I don't know how you are, but I like to celebrate all our podcasts.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't see any rivalry there, and hopefully there will never be any, but there's such a great community and such amazing podcasts and people that truly care. And the fact that we have 10 Union podcasts and I listen to all of them because they all give such a unique insight is incredible. You don't get that unless you have fans that truly care.
Yeah.
Like, I should not be able to listen to 10 podcasts. I should be hearing the same things over and over, but every person and every podcast brings this awesome perspective, and it's great. And I love what you're doing, man. I appreciate you, Todd, and what you built this year, coming from, like a broad soccer podcast to really narrowing your focus to the Union, and your quizzes that help get people going and laughing. Like when we thought we didn't have a season, like that's so important, man. And I hope like what you're doing makes an impact on people. And that's been my big thing this year, is just telling people, if you love them, tell them you love them. If you appreciate them, tell them you appreciate them. Maybe if you don't like them, you skip that part.
Yeah.
We don't need any negativity. But just be kind to people, man.
Yeah,
everyone's trying to do their best. And I think, like I said, the Union, they did so great, man. And I can't thank them enough for the year that they gave me, and how much hope they gave me, and how much it's going to even sustain me through the winter until March or February if we get CONCACAF games. Like, I am so we haven't even talked about the Champions League, Todd.
I know.
All these great things. That's how many great things we have going on that we totally forgot to mention, that we clinched a spot in the CONCACAF Champions League.
I didn't even put it in my notes, which is crazy.
That's what I mean. There's that much good stuff going around that we should all be excited for. Like, we may play some crazy team from Costa Rica or Mexico. Like, we may have a battle of the Bimbos, Todd.
Oh my God. Can you imagine the scenes? Oh my gosh.
I don't know who they're sponsoring anymore in Central America and Mexico, but we could have a battle of the Bimbos, and I would lose my mind.
I didn't even think about that. Like, so everybody that's listening to the podcast, is your homework to look up, see what teams in Central America is sponsored by a Bimbo. Like, that would be insane to see.
Oh my God, like, the battle of the Bimbo would be incredible.
Who do you think Bimbo would want to win more, us or the other team? I mean, hey, either way, one of those teams are going through, and so they're still getting sponsorship out there. So,
as long as we get some free pastries, I'm all in. But no, I think that would be great, and it would be fun for people to see that Bimbo is this global powerhouse in baking, and not a 70s slang word.
No, yes, please. I want more free bread. Let's bring the bread back.
I miss the free bread coupons. And Grupo Bimbo, if you're listening, please bring them back. We love the bread coupons.
Absolutely.
And so we could in February be playing CONCACAF games if everyone can wear their masks and be healthy and do what we need to do over these winter months. And hopefully we'll all be back in the stadium soon. Like I said, it's such a shell of itself. It was cool hearing the players communicate, but the soul of this whole thing is just the fans in the stands. And like I said, I'm not saying Keystone Ultras or Sons of Ben, like everybody. And I try to really push that. If it's your first game, I consider you as much a fan as I was, because I wasn't there in 2007. Like if you're new and you love this, you're as much a fan as I am. Love this team, support this team. I don't care if it's been one game. I brought my neighbor, Eric, who moved to this neighborhood. He's from Honduras originally, from Miami to Temple, and he moved next door. He came to his first game with me and got to see the Union raise the shield. And now he's looking into season tickets. He's got a jersey. He's got a favorite player. Like,
there we go.
People that experience this, and not just the success, it's the passion of the fans and the community. Like, he's coaching at Roxborough United now. Like, the global game, the beautiful game has brought like him into this thing. And like I said, he's a diehard, and he's only, he's been following the team. It was like, on TV all year. And I was like, I am making sure this guy gets to come to this game. And like I said, what a moment. It was as special for me to watch him experience that as it was for me to experience that after waiting for 11 seasons. And I think that I'm trying to encourage people to do that. Welcome people. Mm-hmm. Don't be like, oh, you didn't care about us when we sucked. Okay, they didn't. But guess what? They care now. Bring them in and like treat them well. Be kind and grow this thing. It's only going to get better and bigger if we are kind to people. And like I said, not away fans. You can still talk trash to them. But if someone is interested in your team, welcome them. I don't care if they were on Sports Talk 5 years ago telling you soccer sucked and it's the lamest sport. Like we all change our minds. And if you don't change your mind, that means you're not expanding your mind and learning and growing. So welcome these people. It's incredible. I had so many new people that were interested in the Union this year. And guess what? How many I turned away? 0. I welcomed everybody because I want this thing to be huge. Like, I want this thing to be, I want us to be up there with the Eagles and the Phillies and the Sixers and the Flyers. Like, I want us to be on even footing. And, that doesn't happen if you push away fans. It's never going to happen if you push people away. Maybe they're casual. But guess what? Sometimes you start out casual before you get hardcore. So welcome the casuals.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if they don't get hardcore, like, you need casual fans too, and that's okay. It doesn't change how you support. So like, you just try to set a good example. I'm sending that out to all the supporters, whether you've been there since 2007 or just got on board. Welcome people. This is a family. And people could have done the same thing to you, being like, oh, Todd's from Maryland. Todd didn't follow the Union as closely as he could have, like, all these years.
Yeah, definitely.
And if we pushed you away, we wouldn't have this great podcast and, like they said, this great community. So keep welcoming people. And this is, all our podcasters are making a lot of new fans come in, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate all the kind words that you just said, and you said like 5 minutes ago and everything. And yeah, I mean, no rivalries. Like, we're not good enough to turn away bandwagon people. We don't get talked enough about on sports radio. So, I mean, whether it's 10, 20 Union podcasts, I mean, people are talking about this team obviously means that they care about this team. And so, it's awesome that people have all these different connections, all these different options to listen to. And like you said, each podcast brings a different perspective and different guests. And I mean, it's one big community. And hopefully, like you said, there is no hate between other people and everything. But I do want to go back into just my predictions that I had at the earlier this season, with that being the goal leaders and then the 2020 assists, and then we'll wrap this thing up and everything. So the 2020 goal scorer leading in that category was Casper. He had 8 goals in 23 games. Also tied for first with Sergio Santos with 8 goals in 21 games. And then Anthony Fontana, 6 goals in 17 games. And I feel like more than half of those were coming off the bench. And so
insane.
You'd love to see an impact player like Anthony Fontana when you need a goal coming off the bench, giving you that goal. And so I want to go ahead and play my predictions at the beginning of the year, who I thought was going to be our leading goal scorer. And like I said, I think Casper's going to lead the team in goals. I think Casper's going to have a huge season. I think he'll go on and score 21 goals next season. And maybe that's going to surprise some of you guys. I'm saying that Casper is going to score 21 goals. But, if he stays healthy for the whole year, he's a strong physical striker. He doesn't give up and everything. He's not afraid to shoot with his left. He's not afraid to use his head. He's not afraid to use his right. This is a guy who I think, honestly, a complete striker for us. And I know there's a lot of quote unquote pundits out there saying, "Oh, Casper, he's just a one-hit wonder. He's not going to perform to what he did last season." So yeah, maybe Casper didn't perform the way that we all saw that he performed last year. But at the same time, too, we played 23 games this season. I thought we were going to play 34 goals. Would he have got 21 goals? Maybe not. Maybe. Who knows? And what I didn't play in that clip was second I had Sergio Santos with 12 goals in 34 games, and third I had Andrew Wooten having 10 to 12 goals. Which oh man, what a hard season Andrew Wooten had. And then fourth I had Jamiro Montero with 8. But one thing I was right about, I said if Casper stays healthy, he was healthy all season. He played in all 23 games. So I think that's big. And especially Casper at the beginning of the year had COVID and everything and fought that off and was able to play the whole season. And yeah, maybe they had an effect of him starting slow and everything, but no feet injuries this season and you'd love to see it. And yeah, Andrew Wooten just he would get between 10 and 12 goals. I was flying high, It's hard for players to come in July and pick things up right away. And so I was okay. He's had a year under his belt. Let's see what he can do with a year under his belt. And yeah, he couldn't replace Sergio or Casper as one of the two strikers, which is fine. We got Corey Burke back, which I didn't think would happen at all. I mean, that was huge. Another positive, getting Corey Burke back, watching him score game-winning goals. Love to see that. And yeah, I guess I was kind of right with Casper being in first with 8 goals, but yeah, I mean, you'd love to see it though. I mean, Casper, yeah, we all would have liked to have seen him put away some chances that he had opportunities to this season that he didn't put away, because last year he was putting away everything, it seemed like, and this year you're like, oh, how didn't you score that, Casper? But there's a guy who didn't give up. This is a guy who fights every single day, and a striker, you know they want to score goals. That's what they're all about and everything. But Casper does so much more, and that's what I love about his game. And you have people on social media say, "Oh, don't play Casper anymore because he's not scoring goals." Like, his job's so much more than scoring goals. His job's to hold up the ball. The partnership between him and Sergio Santos is so much more than them scoring goals. Like, they understand each other's runs. They know where each other's going to be. Casper is constantly dropping back into the midfield to collect the ball, to just try to find space and everything. That opens up space for Jamiro Montero to run into and for Brendan Aronson to run into. Sergio Santos, like, yeah, he's just doing so much things that aren't showing up on the stat sheet, which your normal soccer fans aren't going to notice. But if you break down, you look at the film and everything, you look at more in-depth stats and everything, like, you'll see, yeah, Casper actually played a lot better than what 8 goals show that he played like. So just thoughts on the season that Casper, Sergio had, any of those other guys?
Like you said, I don't remember. I don't usually make predictions, but I definitely thought Casper was going to tally more. But like you said, nobody really expected us to score goals by committee, and like you said, it was something in that pairing of Santos and Shabilko that they definitely elevated each other's game. It was great to see Santos break out. And like you said, Casper just had a bunch of those ones that just, last year they went in and this year they didn't. Like, I think he easily could have had about 12 or 15 goals, but it's the way it works. And then if you, I feel bad. We completely forgot about Anthony Fontana. But if you break down goals per minute, that man's goals per minute have got to be unbelievable. Because like you said, he came on as a super sub. But now that we're losing Aronson, maybe we see more of Anthony Fontana. Like, that guy is a beast. He is incredible. And he's also got to have the hunger too after this, because how much do you have to do to earn yourself a starting spot? Like, I feel like he's going to come in on fire in the preseason and into the CONCACAF Champions League. And Wooten, like you said, I don't know. Like, was that a rare miss for Tanner, or can he do something next year if he's on the team? But we think of the positive. He had like 4 assists. He had a game-saving save off the goal line. Like. And, while he may not be remembered for the striker we signed him to be, like, he saved one of the biggest goals of that season. And I know, Bendick probably sent him a gift basket for making that save for him. And, the goals kind of came from all over. And, I think Casper, like you said, staying healthy is important. The last, prior to coming to the Union, that was him. He was injury prone. And to see him healthy consistently even after battling COVID, is incredible. And he just seems happy. I think on Instagram, he just got married. I think he's got a child on the way. Like, I think he put his roots down in Philly. And like, I think he loves this team. He loves this city, and he loves Jim Curtin. And hopefully we get to see a lot more of him and Santos up front, scoring a lot of goals next season.
Absolutely. And looking at Anthony Fontana's goals per minute, he scores a goal every 84th minute. So that's one behind Corey Burke. But Corey Burke, again, came here late and everything. So I'm not really going to include Corey Burke. So, yeah, Anthony Fontana, I mean, if you need a goal off the bench, it seemed like it was always going to be Anthony Fontana. And the last clip that I will play, though, is my prediction for the assist leader. So in first was Brendan Aronson with 7 in 23 games. Second was Jamiro Montero with 6. And also tied for second was Casper with 6. And
wow.
Here we go. This is, which is crazy, right? Like I said, Casper's doing so much more than just scoring goals. 6 assists as a striker, that's huge. Like, you expect the striker to just get goals, but see Casper pop up with 6, tied for second. He's doing so much more, people, than just scoring goals, and it gets overlooked every single time. But here's who I thought was going to lead the Union in assists in the 2020 season. And I think Jamiro is going to be the leader in the assists this season. I think he's going to have 12 assists, and like I said, he's going to get a chance to play the number 10 with Brendan Aronson. And I expect, Jamiro is going to take shots and everything, but unlike Marco Fabian, where he would just constantly taking shot after shot after shot, I think Montero is going to link up with Sergio and Andrew and Casper up top and just pile on the assist. And I'm super excited for this midfield this season. I mean, you just look of a midfield of Orvat, Bedoya, and Montero on top of the diamond, or Orvat, Bedoya, Montero, and Aronson at the top of the diamond. I mean, and then you throw in El Brujo. And man, I'm super excited. I know there's just a lot of what ifs and everything, but this team, honestly, man, they're going to surprise so many people out at the end of the season, I feel like. And yeah, I was definitely surprised. I know you were surprised, Jeff. And there's so many things to nitpick from that clip. Like, look, I said Orvat twice because I think with him saying sexy season, we all had such high expectations. And then I quickly fixed myself and said, like, oh yeah, don't forget about El Brujo, because, he was presented to us by Ernst Tanner as a project where everybody thought, okay, yeah, look, Orvat scored this banger of a goal against Inter Miami in the preseason. We're like, yeah, we're so excited for this guy. This guy was on the Golden Boy list over in Europe. Like, what isn't to like about this guy? Like, we haven't even seen him play an official game yet, but he's saying sexy season, even though he says, I meant to say successful season. He scores a banger of a goal against Inter Miami. And so everybody's flying high on Orvat. And I'm like, for whatever reason, like, I don't know why I wasn't thinking Brendan was going to play as much as he did this season. Thank goodness he did. I guess I should have seen that coming last year when Brendan Aronson basically took that starting spot from Marco Fabian, which should have been really telling for me going into this season. When a young homegrown player takes your DP signing starting spot, that's really telling. So for whatever reason, I guess I didn't believe in Brendan Aronson having as big of a season as he did for the Union this season. And look, we all noticed it. We all knew going into the season there were going to be a lot of what ifs. And this team, in my opinion, they answered them and they went above. And who knows, as the offseason gets deeper, I'm sure I'll talk about the signings the Union need to make. But in my opinion, this season was so successful for the Union.
Let's talk too, like real quick. I think, we didn't really touch on him much, but El Brujo came in and was a maniac. It looked like he was going to get sent off every game. And to his credit, he, heard the criticism, internalized it and made himself, I can't remember, but there's a tweet almost where he promised that he was going, to better himself and in his performance. And he did. He was still a madman, but, he knew that if he kept getting yellow cards, he was going to hurt this team. And he really did find a way to rein it in, but still be such a menace that I know if I was dribbling up the field, that's the one guy I would make sure I knew where he was, because he's terrifying. He is an animal. that LA game, he was bleeding. He was like, I've seen him pictures in the post games with ice like on his ankles and his knees. Like, the man is a maniac, and like you could just tell he loves it. And like I said, to see him do something so mature like that, he came in and he expected himself to get better, and he worked hard every single day to make that happen. And like I said, we have this great crew coming in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this team. I'm super excited for what the future holds for this team, and I'm glad that you brought up El Brujo because I messaged my friend Jordan Floret, who's been on this podcast a couple of times. He wrote the book called Red Wine and Arepas, which is a book about soccer in Venezuela. And I was like, look, the Union, they basically had a successful season. Jose Martinez, look, this guy, you can argue that Jose Martinez has been the Union's best signing, the best player for the Union this season. I was like, look, we just sold Brendan Aronson to Salzburg for $6 million. This deal can rise up significantly and bring us even more money. I was like, our left back, Kai Wagner, is getting linked to go to Fulham, to West Ham, to multiple Bundesliga clubs. I'm like, our young center back, Mark McKenzie, is getting linked with a move to Celtic. I'm like, look, we all know it. When a team's successful, bigger clubs come for your players because they're like, hey, look, they did it in this smaller team. We have money. We know that they'll be tempted to take money, and teams poach players that have good players. And I was like, look, I've had journalists from other teams tell me this. I've had commentators for other teams tell me this. They said the one thing they noticed is how good of a player El Brujo is. And I'm like, look, if people, not only Union fans are noticing this, but people's jobs that is to cover just soccer in general are noticing how good El Brujo is. I'm like, I get it. He's 26 years old. And for him to make a move to Europe at the age of 26, 27, I know that's kind of young and everything, but I'm like, look, people are noticing how good El Brujo has been for the Union. And I'm like, in your opinion, do you think that El Brujo could go to Europe? And he's like, the thing with Venezuelans in Europe is that they're not giving much weight, and even less when they're not internationals. The problem with El Brujo, like I said, was his age. And he said the fact that he hasn't been played an official game with Venezuela yet plays some weight with him not going to Europe. And he said, above all that is European scouts are just lazy. They don't do their research, and he's not sure if El Brujo has his European passport, so that makes things a little bit difficult too. But he said, if he was the agent basically of El Brujo, that his decision would be like, you're more useful to Philadelphia than some European club would value at. So he thinks that El Brujo's at the best spot right here with Philadelphia Union. He's been lucky enough to have an interview with Jose, and is said all kind of things about Jose. And look, we know what Jose Martinez means to the Union. And what sucks is, like I said, with Brendan Aronson off to Salzburg, with Mark McKenzie linked to Celtic, and the rumor is the Union turned down $3 million recently from Celtic. Kai Wagner,
incredible.
Yeah, exactly. For the Union to say, yeah, we don't want $3 million. You look a couple years ago, the Union would be like, yes, please. But the Union know Mark McKenzie's worth. And if they believe that they can get more money, a better team comes in for Mark McKenzie, which I've got to trust Ernst. He's not failed us yet, so why not stop trusting Ernst? They're going to do what's right. For Kai Wagner to say, look, I want to be in Europe no later than July, whether that's in England, the Bundesliga, La Liga. Look, it sucks. We know we're going to lose players. There was the rumor that Sergio Santos might go to Chile because if he stays for 6 months or something, he becomes a Chilean national, and which qualifies him for the national team, which, hey, look, I wouldn't mind if the Union sends Sergio out for 6 months so he can get that. And yeah, it sucks, watching players go on international duty, missing them and everything. But look, at the end of the day, the more players that play for the national teams that are playing for the Union means more money for the Union, because that's where all the scouts are watching. They're watching players play for the national team. And yeah, Sergio, I think, is 27, so it would be old for him to make the move to Europe. But still, I've got to imagine it's a dream for Sergio to represent the national team. And yeah, I know he's been born in Brazil, and he's definitely not getting called into the Brazilian national team. But if he has a chance to become a Chilean national, to get called into the national team, I feel like the Union could do him a solid. Say, hey, look, we're going to loan you for 6 months if you're happy in Philadelphia, which there's another player who's having a kid, so he's having his roots, it seems like, in Philadelphia. Maybe he stays longer than people think. And look, then there's the question of El Senior. Does he come back for one more year? Colin, does he come back for one more year? Do they retire? Do they go someplace else? Look, this is a team that was super duper special. There was no superstar. We all know this on this team. These are some really, really likable guys. Watching El Senior and Sergio Santos stream every day on Twitch playing Call of Duty, these are just really, really likable guys. And so I want to know, in your opinion, Jeff, you've watched this team from the beginning. Is this the most likable Union team that you've ever seen, in your opinion?
It's the most likable and talented. That's for sure. Yeah. There's been a lot of likable teams in this team's history, but they didn't have this talent. And just to see Ernst bring so many guys and see them all get together as a cohesive unit, not just on the field but off the field. Like you said, there's a Brazilian. The Brazilians are playing Twitch, and just seeing the guy, Casper from Germany, and Kai. And the one thing people don't mention when they talk about all these trades and everything is, especially now during the pandemic, the most important thing, at least for me, has been family. Could you imagine Kai Wagner? Like you're better with the ages. He's what, 27?
He just had a kid. 23, 24. And
he's even younger. So he just had a kid. He got married, and he probably hasn't seen his overseas family in over a year. Like, he must be so homesick. Not saying that he doesn't like what's going on in Philly, but like, as far as I know, he spent the whole rest of his life in Germany, and to be away during the most pivotal years of your life is tough. And I think people forget that, and like, they just go, it's your job, like, show up, do your job, do your thing. And I agree, he's getting paid a lot of money to play soccer, but there's a human behind every number on this club. You know what I mean? Like, number 27 isn't just your left back. It's a guy. It's somebody's son. It's somebody's, husband, somebody's dad now. Like, and I think people don't factor a lot of that in. And, Kai may just want to go back to the European mainland just to be able to see his family. Who knows? Like, look at the whole Nogueira thing a couple years back. I don't remember if you were around for that whole, and I never got the full, I try not to, prize stories that are none of my business, but it just seemed like he needed to be home. And I can't imagine, I've only, I've traveled a little bit, but I've lived in Philly my whole life. I can't imagine what it must mean to uproot not just yourself, but your entire family to a whole different city, sometimes where you don't speak the language, where you have no friends. And like I said, that's the great thing off the field. You've seen this team really bond, not just with the players, but also with the fans, and in putting their roots down in Philly. But, it's weird that people don't put a human element behind it. And I guess we're fans, so you're kind of programmed just to see them as commodity, and kind of like a football manager or FIFA thing where you trade a guy, but you don't think that this guy, maybe he has elderly or sickly parents or you don't put the whole, and you got to look at the whole package. And, like I said, that's like a lot of people don't look, we see the on the field and we see the statistics, but there's a human element. And I think that's another thing that Ernst is hitting a home run on. Like, he just seems to know personalities and know how to get the most out of people. Like you said with El Brujo, like, an incredible player, but if he kept playing like he did the first couple games, he probably would have ended up being a complete liability. But he surrounded that player with other guys and coaches like Jim that helped rein in that amazing talent, but, to polish the edges so he wasn't completely rough. And like you said, at his age, and with his, sadly, how, like you said, people scout people from South America and Central America, this may be his shot at stardom, quote unquote. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I if people want to go to Europe, I don't fault them, but there's nothing wrong with being aiming to be the greatest American defensive midfielder or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, I made the same argument for Matt Real or Anthony Fontana. Like, yeah, look, Anthony Fontana scored 6 goals this season. If he continues to score goals, of course, teams in Europe always want a goal scorer. So, yeah, that's not to say that no team in Europe will never come for Anthony Fontana or Matt Real, but I don't see a problem staying at the Philadelphia Union, becoming a club legend, coming through the academy, staying where you've always lived and everything, becoming that club legend where you just be loved and everything. And I think Anthony Fontana can do that. I think Matt Real could do that. I think Matt Freese can do that. El Projo can do that. I mean, there's so many people on this team that, the grass isn't always greener over in Europe. And I mean, look, I know a lot of people that are listening to this, you're obviously a Philadelphia Union fan. Don't know if people follow European soccer, but I use the example of Eden Hazard that's now at Real Madrid. This guy was killing it for Chelsea in the Premier League. This guy was one of, if not the best Premier League player. Goes over to Real Madrid, getting injured all the time, getting booed by the fans. You saw it happen with Gareth Bale when he left Tottenham to go to Real Madrid. Look, the grass isn't always greener when you go to these quote-unquote bigger clubs, these greener pastries. Yeah, you're getting paid more money and everything, but at what cost? So...
Or, switch it back even. We'll get another guy we haven't even talked about because of how much great stuff, Alejandro Bedoya. Yeah. He could have stayed in Europe for another couple years, but he took on this role, like you said, here that isn't available over there. And he mentored a whole academy's worth of homegrown guys and is almost like a second coach. I think him and Jim are probably pretty close in age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A couple of years difference, which is pretty crazy. And just how much leadership that gives you. And even you were talking about Ilsinho staying here. We've seen Kleberson and Fred, Brazilians, go into the academy and start coaching. Like, maybe that's a way to keep Ilsinho around too. He's just incredible talent and football mind. And why wouldn't you want to have him stick around to coach the next gen, or who knows? But there's just so many great possibilities that I just see so many great things ahead for the Union. And, be happy with our silverware. Let's celebrate that. And then, let's not be content with that though, because the players are not content with that.
Absolutely.
And neither is Jim. I can tell you that nobody is thinking about that game more than us, than Jim Curtin. He is definitely going to be think of that. He has all those Open Cup heartaches. He has that Jim cares about this team and this city more than anybody. And people might not want to hear that and they might not want to believe it. And you can have your own opinion on him as a coach, but nobody cares more about being successful in this town than Jim Curtin. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a guy that's Philly through and through. And like you said earlier, it's went through working with the younger kids to, getting an getting the intern job once Hackworth was fired and everything. The Union stick with him. And, those old tweets on Twitter came up a few weeks ago where it was announced that, in 2018, the Union said Jim Curtin's coming back in 2019 and fans were losing their mind. And, that turned out pretty well, I'd say. Right, Jeff? So
yeah, and I definitely have to clear something up. I did bring up the curtain out and close the curtain hashtags, but that was from a place of love and just having fun with people. Because like you said, I get it. People are passionate, and just because they don't think like I do, it doesn't make them any less of a fan. And I hope people that did see me be like, I'm keeping receipts on this. It was total air quotes. And like you said, 5 years ago was a whole different ball game than right now. So it was funny to kind of glimpse to where we were and where we are now. And if you, how you can do that and not be excited is beyond me. So I'm hoping all those people focus on how we're going to be 5 years from now. And I think it's going to be incredible. I think it's going to be unrecognizable the way 5 years ago seems unrecognizable now. So I think it's just going to keep blowing up. And real quick, just because you know more about the international game, talk about how a guy like Christian Pulisic didn't even come anywhere near this team. As far as I know, I don't know all the ins and outs, but had eyes set on Europe. And now we have Rusty Aronson, who wanted his kids to be in the part of this YSC Academy. He has his Real Jersey youth team in New Jersey that's incredible, but he wanted Brendan and Paxton to go through this pathway because he sees the benefit. And Rusty is like an incredible soccer mind. And for someone to raise, he has a daughter as well, but 3 kids that are killer soccer players, and to go, let's not just run to Europe. I want you to come through this academy and then go to Europe. You know what I mean? Like, that speaks volumes. And I think people should start seeing that as a huge win, like, not to take anything away from Pulisic, but it wasn't there in his kind of cycle and he bypassed it. And think of how much more entertaining it's going to be when the next Pulisic is in a Union jersey instead of going to Germany and going, overseas. And that's what we have to look forward to. And those are the guys that are going to lift that MLS Cup. Like, I promise you it's coming. I know it's coming in my heart. We're going to celebrate that. And it's going to be even more glorious after that bad playoff game. We're going to be, be like, remember that shield? Now we have the cup, and it's then after that, it's going to be, let's go get the CONCACAF Champions League Cup. Let's get the Open Cup. And like, I just think this team is going to build a culture of winning, and it will come to fruition. And we saw it this year. It came to fruition, and it took everything. Like I said, the supporters group had to battle to get the shield here, and then the team had to battle to win it, and they did it. And we're going to keep winning because of these fans and because of this team and because of the front office and the coaches and Ernst Tanner, and it's going to be glorious. I promise.
And it absolutely is. And, you were thinking, you were saying 5 years, imagine where the team's going to be. And I'm thinking, 6 years when the World Cup's here in North America, thinking, how many former Union players are going to be on that team? Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, maybe Paxton Aronson, maybe a player we don't even know about yet. Like, to see the Philadelphia Union producing talent that goes off to Europe eventually, yeah, that's it's really something special. And now, obviously, you're going to see teams in MLS try to do what the Union are doing with YSC Academy, which obviously isn't as easy as, it looks on paper and everything, because Jay Sugarman, Richie Graham, they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to get this thing off and running. You don't know how long it's going to take until you start seeing dividends. And, I think real quick before we wrap it up, I've said it before on the podcast where people say, oh, we got $6 million for Brendan Aronson. Look, the Union took such a big loss on money this season with not having fans at the season. That $6 million isn't going to go straight into transfers. Some of that money is going to go back into YSC Academy. Some of that money is going to go into the cut the losses that Jay Sugarman and the rest of the ownership group took this season for not having fans at every single season. Yes, some of that money is going to go through transfers and everything, but look, not all of it. And even Mark McKenzie, once we eventually sell him, not all that's going to go through transfers and everything. Look, they need to invest this money back into the YSC Academy so you can keep producing Brendan Aronsons, Mark McKenzie's, Paxton Aronsons, and so on, so on, so on. And look, we were at the start, we were seeing kids from Philadelphia come through the academy. Now you're seeing the Union sign players from all over North America.
Pretty crazy.
It's so crazy. Like, you see these top clubs in California and Minnesota, and they're like, okay, yeah, this team that we play for is great and everything, but do you see what the Philadelphia Union are doing at the YSC Academy? Do you see how much Brendan Aronson just got moved to? If I'm good enough, I hope the Union come calling, because I want to be a part of that and potentially get my chance to Europe. So
that's the incredible part. And, I like it because you like to use your platform to elevate others, but people, go follow Matt Ralph of the Brotherly Game on Twitter. This man scouts and watches the academy like with just an eye that not many people have. And that the one thing I feel blessed about is I've known these kids for some almost 6-7 years now, because they would get written up in the Brotherly Game. I knew who Aronson was, and, I knew who Freeze was. And Matt Ralph has incredible pictures of these guys when they're in like 11 years old in super baggy uniforms, because they don't have uniforms that fit them to play on the U15 team and all this other great stuff. And just nurture that community. And like I said, if you're a Union fan and you really want to, see why I'm so excited, like, go watch these kids. The U13s are unbelievable. And, that doesn't always translate, but there's enough kids on that team that a couple of them, or at least are going to translate, you know what I mean? If not all of them. And that's like insane to think about, that you could replenish your whole roster with homegrowns at some point. And like I said, people are no longer going to bypass, hopefully, our academy. And like you said, they just signed this 13-year-old striker. I can't remember where he's from. And like you said, the talent from all over the world and all over the country has its eyes pinned on Wayne, Pennsylvania, and YSC Academy, and Chester, Pennsylvania. Like, who would ever thought that Chester, Pennsylvania would become like the soccer destination of the East Coast and hopefully the whole country at one point, or at some point. And, let's encourage these kids and encourage your local, as a coach, I can't stress this enough. Go check out your local youth soccer team. If you are passionate fans, COVID changes the game, but go out and support your local guys. Go to a game and cheer for these kids. You know what I mean? It'll it's going to grow the atmosphere. It's going to grow the game. And it's something cool about I've been coaching for 4 years now, and to see some of these kids come from, the Tot Academy where they could barely walk and they can't keep their shoes tied to, like I said, actually have a kid that was on my team in the Pathway to the Pros program. And it's just incredible. And they're not just building them up as players, like they're actually building character and they're building good human beings, which is, to me, even more important when you look at guys like, Fontana and Mark McKenzie and Matt Freese, these guys, and Brendan Aronson. These guys are all wise beyond their years. And that's a product of the academy system too. They're not just churning out soccer players. They're churning out people that are going to change the world. And that's is more important than anything on the field. And I know people say blasphemy on a soccer podcast, but these guys are going to change the world one day, and they're also going to win us trophies. And it's incredible that it makes me so proud to be a fan of this team and to spend my hard-earned money on this team, because I know how much they care about these players as people. And that's what's going to be the X factor. That's what's going to be the X factor, because they buy into this system, because they know that they are loved by the organization and by the fans. And seeing players jump on the Zoom calls just shows it. Like, they love this community because they're from this community. And that's what's going to be the X factor that makes Philly the soccer capital of the world, hopefully before the 2026 Olympics, or not Olympics, World Cup.
Yep. Hey.
And
yeah, I got you, Jeff. I definitely do got you. And I told you guys this was definitely going to be a long episode, but I think it was totally worth it and everything. I think Jeff and I have definitely brought up a lot of good points and everything. And if you're one of the people listening to the podcast, that we're saying, oh, the Union's 2020 season was terrible because they got knocked out of the first round of the playoffs. Like, nah, I think we both brought up more than enough points, and maybe somebody's like, okay, all the points you guys brought up, now I'm going to counter them with mine. Okay, that's fine. Come and bring it and everything. But I think there's enough positivity that you can look at that makes up for one loss. And the Union, I think, only had 6 losses the whole season, which is unbelievable. One being in a tournament down in Orlando, one being in the playoffs, and then you had a couple of losses here and there in the regular season. But just what an outstanding season, in my opinion, the Philadelphia Union had. And back-to-back years, you've seen this team get better and better. And next year, I can't wait to see. And like you said earlier, we totally forgot to bring it up earlier, playing in the CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, apologies to all the players we left out. And be optimistic. We agree with you guys that playoff game was garbage, but it's over, and you learn from it and you get better from it, and then you win next year. That's what you do.
Yep, absolutely. And just for the people that maybe this is the first time hearing you, Jeff, maybe they have no clue who you are and everything, which I feel like everybody knows who Jeff Mitchell is. But go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Sure. Father Ben on Twitter, and I follow back everybody that's a Union fan. Jeffrey Mitchell on Facebook, Jeffrey Mitchell or Jeffrey M of the Modern Hypocrites on Instagram. And I want you to be part of the family. So reach out to me, friend me, whether you've been to coming to games for 11 seasons or you're interested in coming to your very first game, hit me up. Other people will tell you on Twitter. I've invited people. If you don't have somebody to go to a game with, meet me. You can sit with my family and I'll show you the ropes. I want you to be there, and you're just as much a fan as I am. Come out and support this team. And if you're nervous, hit me up on Twitter, Father Ben. I'll show you the ropes. I'll welcome you in. I'll introduce you to everybody. I want you to be part of the family, because this family has given me everything. I named my son after the supporters group. And, my family has gone to every event, every game almost. And we love this team. We love this community, and we want you to be part of it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And if you guys aren't following the podcast yet on social media, go ahead and follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Free Kick Pod. Check out the website, thefreekickpodcast.com, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick, Todd Lewis. And it's always a blast talking to you, Jeff. And it was nice to finally get to meet face-to-face in the stadium and everything. Maybe not under the circumstances that we wanted to at a tailgate and everything, but, finally say, hey, look, there's Jeff Mitchell.
That's right, man.
It was
it's
awesome.
Great.
It was awesome sending over in 136, and next season I'll go back to my original home in 138, and hopefully 138 can be as cool as 136 was. I mean, that was an awesome experience with everybody in 136 this season, but again, I mean, thank you just for the kind words and just the positive vibes, Jeff.
Thank you. And like I said, everybody out there, while we have an off season, look into PHL 2026. I think it's 2026.com. Really push this agenda to bring the World Cup to Philly. It's going to be the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And, just imagine, like I said, 5 years ago, how we were and how much we've come along. Imagine how great we can be in 5 years, and imagine how much greater it'll be to see Union players or former Union players wearing their country's colors in our city, in Lincoln Financial Field, and have all of us there cheering them on. Like, grow this game. Hit that website, use those hashtags, use your time, and let's grow this game for everybody. It's going to make every player better, every fan's life better, and it's going to make this city really pop on the map, and we're going to show the world what we're made of.
Absolutely. And I don't know how I can top that with an intro, so I'm not even going to attempt to try that, Jeff. So with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.